ago, in the magical land of Nornwan.
The Great Faere War. Fairies, the wilderness-dwelling folk of Nornwan. Their ears all share a common sharpness, and their fates, like all, are connected to the land of wonders. This tale comes in the time after the church civilized the cannibal Candyborn of the Frosted Peaks, and long after the coming of Nord. Mankind, in the form of the Knights faction, had gone southward to the Tree Lands. The fairies were not completely unknown to man, but there were many tribes, each with their own traditions and magic. The knights wanted their land, seeking places to build kingdoms and to hunt down and slay the dragons. Dragons and other monsters were the reason that the Knights faction was created. Someone had to slay the beast that stood against humanity. Many alliances and agreements were made. Elf tribes would let the Knights use their lands, and the Knights would share their technology and protect the tribe from harm, be it dragons or the vicious orcs. The orc tribes of Norn have long threatened the safety of humans and other races. Orcs had traditions and a mentality that the other races were weak and they should be destroyed. This led to conflict, and going as far back as the first days of the wastelands, humans has ever been at war with orcs. In those first days, man did not know how to deal with all these new threats. That is when Jeremy, Goblin Scholar, came to their aid. He had become Scholar of Norn and rallied all the goblin clans he could find. His help and dedication to the preservation of mankind was invaluable. It was he that suggested that they should find new land by braving the mountains of Grey into the lands of sugar. That was man's view on fairies. Orcs were evil, goblins were an ally, and the elves were to become both. Not every elf tribe accepted the offer of the knights. Some would even threaten war against the humans. This made things difficult in the hunt for resource and dragons. And this is when a group of extremist soldiers marched into the camp of those elves that had refused and set it ablaze. This was the start of the Tribe Wars, a prelude to the Great Faere War. The King of the Knights, upon hearing of this treachery, cursed his disobedient soldiers. Nevertheless, a war had begun. The Tribe Wars were a series of battles fought by several united or otherwise elven tribes that feared the occupation of the Knights faction. Many elves fought alongside the humans against the rebellious tribes. The humans boasted superior technology, but could scarcely contend with the magic of the elves. If not for their elven allies, mankind's casualties would have been much greater. During these years of strife, of elf against elf, a lich queen rose up. Her name was Lochnia. No one is certain whence she came, but she was a great sorceress and leader, and using her circle of powerful witch allies, she united orcs, savage goblins, and the elves that would not bow to humanity. Her army was great and terrible. This alliance led to the creation of the Troll, monsters made to end the world of man. The orcs are not made for magics. Their bodies reject it, and so their ancient shaman had learned the ways of alchemy, or medicines, as they may have called it. A ritual of the warrior orc was to take a special brew before combat. It would make them stronger, focused, and very fast. which is why they never bothered with armor. The research and development witches of Lochner took this recipe and modified it into the Ogre Potion. Orcs would drink this potion and become massive, bloodthirsty beasts with no morals and no mercy. With this new formula, they would become twice their original size and even faster and stronger than the original brew. But their lifespans would be shortened dramatically. The warriors said that this was their price for freedom. The cunning Lich had a plan to rule Norn. She would kill off the goblins and orcs in a war, and then she would die by the hands of an elf hero, letting the humans win and make a lasting alliance with their elven saviors. And then her strategically placed political puppets would seize control of human governments and enslave the non-elf races. And then the devout witches of the Lich would raise her once more, and she would be the goddess of a new Norn. A land where the elves rule, and all the other races would be slaves or die. During this war, the menfolk needed something new to combat the magic of the fairies. Their search led them to the Rocky Mountain mines at the border of the Grey Waste and Sucrose. It was here that they found anti-Faere iron, a metal that was completely resistant to magic, and it would somehow cause Fae folk to burn with pain just by touching it. The church faction likes to call it sky iron, and the knights called it the cold iron. The Faerie War set a precedent for many years to come. An oversimplification. Humans have a goblin slave army that will stop at nothing to crush the races that do not fall in line. The Candyborn will do anything for the humans. Elves are beautiful, but can only be a great friend or a horrible enemy. The orcs are nothing but monsters, and everyone hates the dwarves, for it is they that stayed out of the entire affair. The cold iron turned the tide of the war. The great siege beast Blombo was stolen from the elves and redirected at them. One might ask where the great nature spawn was during such a dire conflict concerning the Fae peoples. The mantle was, at that time, in the hands of the orcs, and this nature spawn had so neglected her duty. She was very much the reason why many Fae had joined the Lich Queen. This orc champion was slain on the battlefield. The war progressed. Years passed. Many things had gone precisely to Lochner's plan. She was slain by an elven hero, and elves made peace with humans. The orcs were forced to live in reservations, and the making, owning, and knowledge of trolls were outlawed. Mankind and their newfound allies had dragons to hunt. The world moved on. The Lich Queen would indeed rise once more, but that is another story.